So thanks for being here. Thanks for showing up in the calls. Always so nice to have people here. Nice to look at faces as well. A couple things first. This is for the frequency clients that we have. So my 21-day challengers, this does not apply to you. But just going over the schedule for the week of Christmas and then the week of New Year's, which is, the week, 2 weeks next to each other. Not this upcoming week, but the week after is Christmas, the week of the 25th. Me and Sheena, hey Sheena girl, will both be out of office, not working on the 24th, the 25th, the 31st, and the 1st. Okay. So just on the holiday days, hopefully that is understandable. If there's an emergency, call 911. And then as far as check-ins those week, on the week of the 25th, which is a Monday, on that 27th, so on that Wednesday, you'll have an optional check-in. So I know the week of Christmas, you guys might be going out of town, having time with your family. Maybe a check-in just doesn't even make sense for you. So optional check-ins, you won't get in trouble if you don't do it. But if you want to submit a check-in, it'll be Wednesday, the 27th. Same thing for the week after, Wednesday, the 3rd. And both of those are optional. If you want to submit a check-in, awesome. You'll get your response either that Wednesday or Thursday following. But let's have them submitted Wednesday, the 27th at 9 a.m. and then Wednesday, the 3rd at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time as well. Any questions about that? We'll resume our normal check-in days, check-in schedule the week after that, the week of the 8th. Cool. Awesome. All right, let's talk about something so fun. I'm very passionate about digestion and bloating. It's also just like a huge sign of health. I saw this thing on Instagram the other day and it made so much sense. Like if you have a pet and you bring the pet, to the vet, they ask for a poop sample. But that's not a thing with human doctors, but it should be. Your digestion and bloating says so much about your internal health, which is why it's a question in the check-in. And I know a lot of people kind of feel weird writing about their poops and they write like TMI. It is not TMI. That really, really gives us one of the most important biofeedback markers of how your body is handling a lot of things, whether that's stress, food, movement, anything, lifestyle factors. So yeah, let's get into digestion and bloating. This isn't a super in-depth one because there's so much. Like literally, if you had if we went into every single thing about digestion and bloating, it would literally take up a whole day, I feel like. But we just have 5 tips that I think will be beneficial to implement in your life. Maybe you are experiencing digestive issues, or maybe we'll just learn something new, or maybe even down the line, if you ever do have digestion issues or experience bloating, this could be a good place to look. So just a reminder again, it would be very cool, fun, and fresh for you guys to take a picture of the screen or take a screenshot, post it on Instagram, share with your friends and followers so that they can join in on calls like this, and truly like spread the frequency of these good vibes and helpful information, that you can pass down through generations to your kids, and so that we all don't walk around with bloated bellies. So yeah, that's it. Make sure to tag frequency if you do post. A couple of reminders before we get into the 5 tips of bloating and digestion. First of all, digestion involves multiple organs, multiple body parts. Starts immediately in the mouth. So when we think of digestion, maybe we're thinking of poop, maybe we're thinking of our stomach, maybe we're thinking of like feeling indigestion with burping, and maybe we're thinking of chewing, right? It's kind of your entire torso. There's a lot of different moving parts to look into. Digestion is impacted by the state of your nervous system. It's a really, really big one. We will dive deeper into that. But your nervous system is your state of either being stressed or not being stressed, perceiving a threat or not perceiving a threat. So we'll really dive into kind of like the gut-brain axis, and the connection and why they call your gut your second brain. Digestion plays a massive role in nutrient absorption, which overall is your overall health, right? So are we getting anything from the foods that we're eating? Are we absorbing all the minerals and vitamins that are in the foods that we think we're getting? If we're not digesting it properly? No. So, digestion is super important, set aside from just like feeling good, feeling comfortable, but literally your overall health as well. I'm going to take I have retainers in and they're cutting my mouth. Hold on. All right, I'm back. I just got retainers and that hurt, but anyhow, things like greens, powders, probiotics, fasting, detoxes, and arbitrary elimination foods, that is becoming the biggest focus. Like if you go on social media or you just do a quick Google search or Reddit search or whatever, on like digestion and gut health, or you find this reel that's gone viral, it's probably talking about some of these things. And these are all just kind of those quick fixes, instant gratification, or it's somebody trying to sell you something. But these really don't play a big role in long-term digestive health, or honestly, maybe even any role. I know quite a few people who have spent so much money on probiotics, greens powders. They're doing all these things. They claim to be whatever it is, lactose intolerant or whatever that is, and that really is focusing more on like the Band-Aid rather than focusing on the root. You can't just keep throwing things at your body without creating an environment for those things to potentially flourish, right? So if we're having some gut dysbiosis or digestion issues and we're immediately going to probiotics or greens powders or, a water fast or whatever that is, you're not even creating an environment for whatever that additional supplement is to flourish. So we really need to focus again on like the root. Tip number one, we're going to have 5 total. Number one, and this is number one for a reason, managing your stress. So again, this is a huge question in the check-in for a multitude of reasons, but stress impacts the body more than I think a lot of people realize. And again, talking about the gut-brain axis. So if your gut is, messed up, if we're feeling bloated, if we're feeling backed up, you're mentally going to feel the effects too. Maybe that's a day or a week where you feel more irritable, you feel more depressed, you're perceiving the world differently because your hormones are now thrown off. If you're not shitting for days, you're holding an extra estrogen, that you're basically a different person. And that's why when you go to the bathroom, you feel like a brand new person, because you literally are. But also, yeah, there's just so much connection between your gut and your brain. Cortisol and adrenaline are hormones that are released when you're stressed out. Those two things, when they're in your body or flooding your body, I should say, they'll slow down your digestion. So if you have high cortisol or high adrenaline and you're super stressed out and you're about to eat a meal, you're going to have a more slow digestion than if you're in a relaxed state, a more calm state, not as stressed. And that will, lead to bloating, cramping, or irregular bowel movements. Again, that is something else that's in the check-in form of, how your bowel's been, any irregularities or anything to be brought up. And, maybe you're writing your check-in and you haven't shit all week, or you didn't on Thursday specifically, or whatever it is. That's a pretty big piece of the puzzle to look at, is where was your stress at on those days. Can also trigger any IBS symptoms if you have it, or if you didn't know you have it, it could be triggering that, as well as acid reflux. So when we think of digestion, sometimes we're thinking of like the lower half, but if you're feeling very burpy, or feeling that like acid reflux feeling, heartburn, things like that, this could all be caused from stress. Maybe not necessarily meaning you need to take a greens powder or cut out any kind of food or whatever. Once again, the gut-brain axis. Take slow, deep belly breaths, big emphasis on belly breaths, before you eat, while you're eating. And a good example of this is praying. Whether you are spiritual or religious or not, praying before your food has shown a huge increase in how you digest the food and your ability to absorb the nutrients that you're getting from your food. It's just a pretty tangible way to regulate your nervous system, to decrease stress, just right before you eat food. So if you're like, well, how do I do this? Maybe just look at your food and literally think about maybe the animal that sacrificed its life for this, or the workers that put it together, or the clerk at the cashier who bagged it for you, everything that went into this food. A moment of gratitude, a moment of being able to afford food, of having a reliable meal. I think tapping into a sense of gratitude is always a good place to immediately regulate your nervous system, or just start to manage stress. Make sure to also eat your meals sitting at a table. So trying not to eat very often on the go, running out the door, grabbing a snack, eating in the car, things like that. Obviously, sometimes life happens. Sometimes we don't schedule the best, but again, just knowing why. So, right, maybe we're having a busy morning, we're running out the door, we bring our protein shake with us or whatever it is, we drink it in the car as we're eating a sandwich, talking on the phone, yada, yada. Then we're feeling bloated a couple hours later and we're like, why? It had to have been because I had that bagel. Maybe it was just because of the state you were when you were eating it. Try to eat without any screens or any distractions. Try to eat without your phone, without scrolling, without watching TV. Slow down and get into a relaxing state before eating. Number 2, pay attention to what foods feel triggering for you or are triggering. And when I say pay attention, I mean genuinely pay attention, which is why I love that in frequency with our coaching style, we have you tracking food. So that way we have data, we have something to reflect on rather than being told, oh, this spinach will make you bloated or this will make you bloated because we're scrolling on Instagram. But actually, can we reflect on what did you have at what time? And when did you feel bloated, and noticing the correlation, taking data rather than just kind of shooting in the dark. A big one that I notice for clients as well as myself, like a huge one, is artificial proteins like protein bars, protein shakes, protein powders, protein chips, protein chocolate, whatever it is. Or like low carb bread products, maybe like a low carb tortilla, low carb, I don't know, bagels or whatever. Both of these things have a type of fiber, or there's multiple types of fibers that are added fibers, and they can just tear up your gut, leaving you feel bloated literally for days. Fun fact, I had a Lenny and Larry's cookie this past week. Don't know why, because I know I don't really even like them. I know they don't make me feel very good, but I was having a nostalgic moment because I used to eat them all the time in college. So like, let me just have one. I needed some extra carbs anyway. I'm literally still not, like, my gut literally still is inflamed from it. It was like 4 days ago now. So paying attention to things like that, all of these like health promoted foods, just eat whole foods. Just eat whole foods. Ideally, if you need to add a scoop of protein into your day, that's fine. But let's not stack up a whole bunch of, low carb items or artificial proteins or, processed foods in general, to be honest. Also, limiting carbonated beverages. Again, this is something that I've just personally noticed. When I go out, I don't drink White Claws. I don't drink High Noons. Anything bloated, I have 2 sips, or anything carbonated, I have 2 sips, and I feel bloated and terrible the whole time, including your girl's favorite, Olipop. So again, just take your own data, see what makes you feel bloated, but these are things that kind of generally don't do too well if you're already pretty sensitive to bloating or have irregular digestion. Cook your veggies rather than eating them raw. Again, this doesn't apply to everything all the time, but maybe just pay attention. Okay, well, I've been eating, salads and raw peppers consistently. I'm feeling bloated. What if this week the way I'm getting my veggies is I'm steaming some carrots or steaming some broccoli? Those usually tend to digest better. Pay attention to your fiber intake as well. So ideally, we want our fiber to be around, give or take, 12 grams per 1,000 calories. So if you're having 2,000 calories per day, a good place to hang out would be around 24 grams of fiber, maybe 5 under, 5 over, but not too much, right? Not too little. So just being aware of that. And the biggest thing is eat enough food. That's a huge thing. I get a lot of clients that come to me and they have extreme chronic bloating. And sure, we can go through all of these things for days and all these other tips we're about to get into. The one thing that can change their entire thing is they're eating breakfast, they're eating more food, they're eating 2,000 calories rather than the 13, 14, 1,500 that they've been eating for years. Eat enough food, and that right there will solve probably 80% of the world's digestion issues. Tip number 3, move your body. Some light movement after a meal. Big focus on light. Basically just go for a nice little walk after your meal. That will pretty much always improve digestion rather than eating and just sitting still. Also, again, if you're reflecting on your week or your day and you notice that you're feeling extra bloated this day or you haven't gone to the bathroom this day, where were your steps that day? What was your movement that day? Was it lower than normal? Again, just being a detective and trying to investigate as to why, because something is always causing the bloating or the indigestion. There's always a cause. And it's your job to become, self-aware as to what's causing that. An example is like a long car ride. Like, I recently drove from Texas to Tampa, and my body didn't move, right? Like literally all day for 2 days in a row, I did not move my body. Digestion was terrible. I've noticed with clients and myself. If my body is not moving, my digestion isn't moving. So take that as you will. And ideally cut off food 2 hours before you lay down, kind of getting towards 2 hours before you go to bed. But even if you're somebody that's usually like laying on the couch, try to just be upright after you're digesting food, after you have your last meal, maybe your dessert. Let's have 2 hours before we get into like a horizontal state, because digestion is not going to be optimal. One, as you're sleeping, it'll affect your sleep. Your body's kind of still awake if it's digesting food, and it's not really going with gravity at that point. Tips 4 and 5 are together. Chew your food hella chews, lots of chews. Literally count 10 to 20 more chews than you normally do. I heard a quote one time saying, drink your food and chew your drinks. It's kind of weird if you think about it for a second, but chew until it's applesauce consistency. Slow down with it. Doesn't need to be, super mindless, but ideally adding more mindfulness into your chews and the consistency of your food before you swallow it. And then kind of the same thing for drinkable things like soup or smoothies. Hold it in your mouth, almost like kind of get a chewing sensation for a second so that you're not like chugging down 500 calories right there, which definitely could cause some bloating, or just any indigestion. So just aware of the rate at which and the texture of your foods. And then this is the 5th tip, tongue scrape. If you don't have a tongue scraper, get one. Get one off Amazon. I think a pack of 2 is like $5, maybe like $9. Tongue scrape first thing in the morning, literally as soon as you wake up, ideally before you even swallow, before you take a sip of water for sure, before you brush your teeth, before you take your progress pictures, whatever it is, the second you wake up, eyes open, tongue scrape from the back of your tongue straight down a couple times, get it all out. Your liver detoxifies overnight and a bunch of other things in your body. So swallowing all that gunk that comes up that makes your breath smell real nice in the morning, that will absolutely cause indigestion or bloating throughout the day. So that's just a pretty easy, literally 5-second thing that you can implement into your day that could cause a world of a difference in your digestion. And that's my presentation about bloating and digestion. Yay. Thanks, Sheena. Any questions, comments, concerns, anything you learned, anything that you've tried? Anyone want to share anything that hit?
I will share. I like what you said about like protein chips or sometimes some protein bars. And I know everybody's body is so different. So that's why I also like that you said try it out and kind of figure out. But I always say I always tell my clients at least like one synthetic form of protein per day and then try to get the rest from whole foods. But yeah, there's definitely like some things too, like your cookie, where I'm like, I know that this is going to be bad, but I just will do it anyway sometimes. Like you want to be bad, but
yeah. And that gives you the power of like, okay, I know I'm going to feel bloated after this, and that's okay.
who gives a shit? At least I know before you do it to me, right?
Exactly. Anybody else?
I really like. Oh, that. Whoops! Sorry. Go ahead.
You're good. I was just gonna say that what I've been trying to do recently is, even with foods that I know my body probably can't handle or won't feel the best eating, I've been trying to energetically send my body a signal of like, this food is going to be fine. My body can handle it. My body is resilient. My body, uses whatever it needs to and discards the rest. So maybe try that with something that might not or has in the past affected you a certain way and just see if that makes a difference.
You love affirmations. Yeah, it can work. Truly. Love that. Yeah, the power of expectations can really shift how your body responds to it. So good advice, Katie. Marissa?
Oh, I was just gonna mention I really like the fact about the tongue scraper thing, because I just got one like maybe 2 months ago, and I don't know if I've noticed anything with like bloating or digestion, because I didn't know that it affected that, but I will say it like severely changes just like your mouth feel in the morning. Like it's more clean than if you're just to brush your teeth. Because I used to like take my toothbrush and like kind of scrub my tongue too, like when I would before I had the tongue scraper, and oh my gosh, it's like night and day. Like you seriously need one.
I was literally just with a guy recently and he didn't tongue scrape, and I was like, I won't kiss you if you don't tongue scrape. Like, yeah, your whole mouth is different. Your breath
Yeah.
is different.
Yeah. Once you tongue scrape, it's like you can't go back.
Literally. Yeah, good. Good. Anybody else?
Oh, I will say that I used to eat like 2 or 3 scoops of protein powder a day, and I was getting so much bloating and just like my stomach was always hurting. So I told you about it, and I've been down to like 1 scoop a day, and like I feel so much better.
Yay. Good. Love that. And also the type of protein that you're having as well, because
Yeah.
some brands that could cause more bloating. That's why I really do love the Keon brand. But yeah, good. Proud of you, Lauren. She's a recovering protein powder addict. Cute. All right, anybody else? All right, we love it. Well, thanks guys for a successful call. We do have yoga tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. You can have your cameras off, no mics. It's very chill. Take advantage of this stress management technique, right? We talk about it all the time. This is your opportunity. It's free yoga. It's a great time. It's a good vibe. See you there. That's all. Bye.